What's going on, man? Just want to say good morning to everybody. I just woke up, so I got to drink my coffee and answer a series of questions he asked. So I'm going to have to break them down to the best of my ability. Hopefully I keep you guys entertained because a lot of individuals ask me the same comments, but he asked me all of them in one. So I got to get to these ones. These ones are pretty good. And, subscribe, like, share, comment. Most importantly, I want you guys to comment because, like I said, this platform, I want to create it as an open dialogue to educate one another, share experiences with one another, because we all come from the same heritage and background. A lot of us haven't. A lot of us are just here because they're intrigued of the lifestyle of the prison genre, prison politics, because there's a lot to talk about, and it's fascinating how we interact and we operate behind the walls. And it's okay to entertain the masses because this is information that shouldn't be hitting no more. It's always been a thing of secrecy and the all murder, keep your mouth shut type stuff. But why? Everything's already been out there for the last 50 years. Everybody talks about what takes place in prison. So why not? Let's educate the masses because I would like for the youth not to watch these videos and not want to partake in this kind of lifestyle. I don't want this for my son that's about to be born. I'm a prime example that no matter what decision I make, I suffer consequences, and I still deal with the repercussions. I still deal with the conflicts of interest out here, and things just continuously escalate. They don't ever differentiate throughout time. It's always gonna follow you where you go. And so yeah, just comment with one another because I'm a firm believer of self-education, and if this is my way of educating the people as to what's taking place behind the walls, then I'm all for it. But before I do get into it, I just want to let you guys know I'm gonna drop an interview that has to do with Renee Boxer, and this is not for me. This is something I found on YouTube, but I found interesting because I want to prove a point. So I'm gonna give you guys that video, and then I'm gonna do a breakdown of it because I want to just show the people that as men, we do go into prison as criminals, and either one or two things happen. We either come out as better criminals, or we change for the better. But I want to give the example of that when sitting in that cell, you can become great at something. A lot of these individuals became powerful, organized crime individuals just from a cell, just from a wall, just with a paper and a pencil or a pen. The things that they can cause, the damage that could be done, and the influence that they can gain just from a prison cell. Like CDC yard cannot stop us from doing what we want to do. So we need to adopt that same mentality and come out here and basically apply the same mentality on the streets. Like nothing can stop us. If prison cells and a prison wall and being in a kennel all day didn't stop us from accomplishing what we have accomplished throughout the last 5 or 6 decades, man, coming out here, there's endless opportunities for us. And that's how I look at it. Through this YouTube, through my social media, through my music, through my interactions with a lot of my subscribers and a lot of followers on my Instagram that get at me on a daily basis, just asking me questions. I even had a mother just talk to me about Soledad the other day, and she was saying that he wants to boost up points. Is there anything that he can do so he doesn't catch more time and get involved with STG games? I was like, yeah, just tell him to get caught with a tattoo gun. It'll boost his points up. Individuals turn to me for that kind of advice because she told me straight up, she goes, I'm crying. I don't want my son to get in any more trouble. I just want him home. And he's still active. And I respected that. And I felt so proud. It was a proud moment for me that I was able to talk to her and hear her side of the story and give her the best advice that I can for her son's sake. And I look forward to those type of experiences because I'm so used to prison politics and cannibalism and internal conflict, that things like that are real engaging, and it kind of makes me rethink a lot of things that I'm doing. So I appreciate that woman for reaching out to me and asking me those kind of questions. And like I said, it felt good to be a positive leader for once, instead of always trying to apply myself as a leader and ended up in such bad terms or in bad decision making, or just hurting my own people, because it kind of sucks at the end of the day. I'm supposed to be here to protect my people and be proud of my people, and influence for the greater good. But as usual, we'll get into the questions. I just wanted to let you guys know when you guys see that video upload, it's not my personal I'm not even getting monetized off that video. That's somebody else's information and copyrighted video. I just want to share it with you guys, and for those that haven't seen it yet, And I want to do a breakdown to it because it's going to be interesting on what I have to say. So with that being said, he asked me a series of them in one, so I'm going to have to break them down. He said, what is the lay of the land on the SNY compared to GP? Okay, the same way the GP is divided, you know, the Southerners and whites got their own pull-up bars, their own recreational areas, and the North and the blacks do. It's somewhat the same, but not the same, because on the SNY side, it's the STGs that divided the whole yard, and everybody else pretty much falls into place. But don't get it twisted. Non-affiliates that don't gangbang, that don't join these STG groups, you can come to my table and chill. You can come to the Zapatistas table. As long as you know some of them and you're friendly with them and you're cool with them, you have like a personal friendship with them, you can sit at our tables. There's been a lot of individuals that, when we talk business, we'll dismiss them like, hey, you mind you give us a couple minutes, and they'll leave. But you can utilize those tables. You can utilize the bars that are assigned to each and every STG group, because we kind of share everything. I'll go work out in the 2-5ers area, and he don't care. It's just that's where they go to conduct their business. That's where they're going to go to do a removal. You know, you do still need that division. That way you have that peace of mind that nobody's infringing on your program, or no one's there to infiltrate and threaten your life. So we do divide a lot of the areas. The blacks will have their own table and their own pull-up bar areas. And usually the Mexican culture, we won't be in that area. You know, it's just a racial division that's always going to take place in jail. We leave them alone, they leave us alone. They won't share our area. But amongst our culture, amongst our people, we share everything. It's just we'll have our designated areas specifically designed just to keep the STG groups apart, so we're not fighting over a damn table. So that's how it works. Number wise, you guys already know. Just like on the main line, you know, the Sureños are always going to be the deepest, and the Mexicans are always going to be the big majority on the yards. Same thing applies to the SNY side. On the yards that I've been on, it's always been Mexicanos. We're always going to be the deepest, and the whites and blacks are going to be well proportioned, but they'll never be deeper than us. Everywhere I went, they'll never be deeper. And he also said, you know, how do they make up the numbers, the difference from GP? Well, when it comes to GP, I've seen a lot of skinheads and a lot of Peckerwoods, white supremacies, and they'll be deep. Never deeper than Sureños, but they'll be deep. Blacks will always be deep. But see, the thing on the SNY side is that even though the blacks will hang out in the same area and congregate in the same area, they're not going to jump for each other. Like, two black dudes can be getting jumped by like 10 Zapatistas or 50 2-5ers. If they ain't homeboys with none of the rest of these guys, they're just going to look at them like, ain't none of my business. We don't know what that guy did. Whites are a little different. Whites that are part of the STG groups, they'll jump as a whole. And obviously, they'll have their sympathizers and their friends that'll jump with them. I'm not saying all the whites will jump with them, because there's a lot of cases where a lot of whites just come to do their time. You know, they forfeited their beliefs. They want to do their program. They're just hanging in a white area to feel safe. You know, it's like a safe haven, a safety net. You know, we're around my people. You know, I feel comfortable right here around my people, not talking to a Mexican or especially a black. But then they're not really obligated to jump. But sometimes, you know, they'll get hurt if, you know, an STG white group feels like them jumping in would have kind of help the situation out. So they'll take it out on them. But that's how it really works. But the Mexicans, racial riots, is going up. There's no explaining it. I guess it's embedded in us from the mainlines that if any Mexican sees another Mexican jump by another race, it's just, I mean, I've seen Pisces just light the shit up, because then they'll be down to see like 3 black dudes jump a Mexican, no matter if he's an STG group or not. Non-affiliates that are Mexicans, that are ex-Southerners, ex-Northerners, they stick together, and they'll rock with us without question. If it's a racial riot, dude, like I said, I got paperwork right here where every Mexican on that yard just rushed the blacks, and it wasn't even their problem. It's just that's how it really operates. It's kind of like an unwritten rule. So that answers that. A lot of the yards are going to be divided just the same way. It's just we'll still share amongst each other. It's just divisional purposes. Just, you know, just it's a set mindset that we just brought over. Hate to say it, but that's how it really is. So the breakdown of the STGs of each race. Do blacks still rock Crips and Bloods, or do they abandon these gang ties? No, they don't. You'll still hear them say their hoods, their Crip hoods, their Blood hoods. On 2 occasions, I've seen blacks try to start their own STG groups, and didn't really work out except Tehachapi. Tehachapi, they came up with a Flight Squad. And they were around for a while, But the thing is, they would only jump for each other. They wouldn't jump for the rest of the blacks. If the blacks were getting hurt, they don't attend to the welfare of the rest of the blacks. They just stick amongst each other. But there was an occasion that I could talk about later on. But there was another black group that came up. They weren't a gang. They were just all homies. They were all close with each other, and they were some of the biggest dope hitters on the yard. And Flight Squad tried to take that from them. And that was probably some of the coldest knockouts I've seen on that yard. Was these dudes were knocking out Flight Squads left and right. I mean, there was like maybe 12 to 15 bodies put to sleep in a matter of 30 seconds, 40 seconds while bombs were going off. I was like, damn. And then they started going to war with each other at Tehachapi on A Yard. And to then, I've never really heard about black STG groups on the other SNYs. The only groups that stick to the only STG group I really can't label an STG group because it's from the streets is the Zillas. On the GP on the SNY, they're fucking deep, and they stick with each other. They don't run with the blacks. They'll hang with the blacks, but they don't run with the blacks. They're strictly Zilla and the Stars. They do their own thing. So that's how that works. And the STGs, like I said, you have the Cinqueros, which are the 2-5ers, and their subsections. You have the Zapatistas. You have the Riders. Then you have the Independent Riders. And then you have, Scrappy's little, his little faction over there in Salinas Valley and a couple other prisons. But the reason why he was able to grow and create such an organized group that actually goes to war with everybody except the Zapatistas is that we didn't have any yards on Salinas Valley. And they had a homie named either Roper or Reaper. Can't remember the name. I know I have his name on a list somewhere. He was from San Jose, so he was going back to court on an appeal in Santa Clarita County Jail. And from what we were being told is that he was going over there and he was recruiting a lot of members. So a lot of individuals that were coming from that county jail were coming in as straight NCs without even touching a rider yard, a northern rider yard. And administration's already reached that point where they just know not to put us together. So they were pretty much asking, like, who do you run with? And if you was to say, I'm an NC, I'm a Scrappy, they were just gonna send you right over there to Salinas Valley. They were dividing us because they just wanted the violence to stop escalating. It was a perpetual thing that was going on. So they were just working hand in hand with the cops so that way they can have their own yards and be segregated and be safe. So that's how that STG group managed to grow. And they grew like in numbers. They were taking over, I think, pods in the Santa Clarita County Jail. So it was kind of hard to stop their growth. That's why Snoop was doing a lot of his little small antics through Mo and all that bunch of other crap that he was doing. And then eventually he tried to do a ceasefire. That's why the homie Blanco's mad right now. Because he's pretty much saying that we can't stop them from growing. Scrappy's going to grow. So that's how that works. And the whites, like I said, USAS was the big one that I see in the beginning. But most of the time, you're going to see BBCers on the yard. I never really heard of Whites for Life and the other group that you mentioned. I didn't come across them in the time that I was there. It was mostly BBCs at the time that are the biggest white faction on the SNY side. And he said, what are the bigger SNY gangs for whites? Oh, like I said, to me, the BBCs are. He asked about racial riots. And like I just previously explained, now you go at it with the Mexicans, it's going up. The blacks, they're not organized like that. They still believe in the Bloods and Crips, and they're pretty much they're gonna do their own thing. Yeah, some will jump for each other, some just have that in them to jump, but most of the time none of the blacks are gonna jump in. Either they're gonna just hit the wall and stay away while the rest get jumped by Mexicans or whites. But if say for example, and I've seen this on many occasions, if the Mexicans go at it with the blacks, usually the whites jump in. They just do it. They just, like I said, it's a free-for-all. Nobody's going to go to the hole. We're all going to go back to our cells after like 5 hours of photographs and searching us. So nobody really cares. And I've seen Paisas jump in. The non-affiliate Mexicans, they're going up. That's just, like I said, it's an unwritten rule. They're going to go up. And, but turn the tables, us going against the whites, the blacks ain't going to jump in. And, usually they won't. When it comes to Mexicans and whites, the non-affiliates won't jump in because most of the time it'll be the STGs going at it with the whites because the whites are an STG group. So it's pretty much like STGs versus STGs. So the non-affiliates will kind of stay away from it. It's just a racial rise. Most of the time it's always with the blacks. So hope that answers that one. Alliances, there's no alliances like how you see the Sureños and the whites and the northerners and the blacks. There's no alliances with the STG groups at all. sometimes we come into agreement, like in Tehachapi and Kern Valley, that a lot of us were putting the NCs on site, or like the flight squad will put the black groups on site. But there's no alliances amongst each other, because at the end of the day, we're just gonna stick to ourselves. We're gonna do business with one another, but in any case, in any circumstances, there's a possibility of us going to war with each other. So we kind of just eliminate the concept of an alliance. There's no need to have an alliance, because we all do our own thing. We do our different programs. We all have our own different belief systems. So it's kind of hard to be complicit with one another in that aspect. So we just stick to ourselves. And last but not least, this dude asked me about the GBGs. And this is going to be embarrassing, but I'm going to have to talk about it. GBGs are only in Salinas Valley. If they come to any other SNY group yard that we exist on, that I don't even, half the time they won't announce it, and if they do, they get ran off the yard. That we're not in Kern Valley and Tehachapi, Pleasant Valley, and those areas that I've been at. We don't let them say that, because we don't believe in that. That's an embarrassment to the rest of us. And you're not gonna be over here fighting, because they came together because they got tired of trainees getting picked on and getting raped and bullied. So they came up with GBGs to protect them, and then they eventually started having sex with the trainees, to making them their girlfriends. So that's what that fucking organization really is. But trust me, that only happens over there in Salinas Valley. And even then, I don't even know if it happens anymore like that, because, like I said, any other yard they land on, or if they even say, oh, bro, I'm GBG, it don't matter what STG hears that. We're going to knock them down like, bro, get the fuck out of here with that shit. That is, no, you could take that shit back to where it was at. We don't believe in none of that. Yeah, of course, there's some of these yards that oftentimes have trainees, but we kind of leave them alone, because we're not going to be picking on some dude that's dressed like a girl, that pretty much got hands like a dude, that will fight like a dude. And most of the times, they usually are girlfriends and sailed up with blacks anyway, so it doesn't really matter. That's not really none of our business. But that's how the GBGs rock, bro. But they only exist in certain yards where they know that we're not there, bro, to actually fight them off, because really, we'll get rid of them fast, because we don't condone that shit on the yards. But anyways, I hope I answered the questions to the best of my ability. Be ready for that boxer interview. That way I can do a breakdown video on it afterwards to talk about, how great and how powerful a man could be from just living in a cell. Peace.